Good morning and welcome to my third day of riding out here. I'm a little bit cooked from yesterday, to be honest, so I'm going to just take it as it is today, see how it goes. And I think I'm really going to need to do in this video is a bike check video. My Aspero 5, I think it's time to actually talk about what I've done to change it since Badlands, because there's been quite a few little tweaks and changes I've done. I'm like a notorious bike tweaker. I think that really helps me to have like quite a good idea of what setups work for different situations, and also hopefully this will explain why I chose to take a gravel bike to go road cycling in Tenerife. The bike itself, as you will know, is an Aspero 5, the Cervélo's top tier gravel bike. The main differences between this one and the Aspero is the framework is actually slightly lighter. The geometry is exactly the same, but the frame is slightly lighter, and all the cabling is integrated into the steerer tube, under the handlebars, through the stem and down into the steerer tube. Now the steerer internally of here is like a D shape. Basically there's a D there which the cables go down the front of, and then subsequently coming out here and then going into the frame where it appropriately needs to do. But what I quite like is that all the cabling for the handlebars is actually external. So if I do this, hopefully you can see all the cabling there. So there's basically like a channel that runs underneath the handlebars, so you can easily kind of service it, but it is internal of the stem. They've done like an update with the new Soloist. I say an update, it's a different kind of offering where the cables are running internally but they are external here, so it just makes it easier to adjust and service it appropriately. So group set wise, I'm running Shimano GRX Di2. I am a huge fan of the GRX shifters. The shape of them is, I think, really a lot more ergonomic. They've got good grip on them. The button to press is internal here, as you can see. It's like a little internal button. But the other thing that's slightly different with GRX as opposed to the previous generations Dura-Ace and Ultegra Di2 is the pivot point on the shifter is in a slightly different position. So the reason why they've done that is it means that if you're holding on to the drops, you can brake and you're not getting any contact. It just gives you some more like ability to control yourself a bit better on how you're holding the shifter, because they're actually quite a bit longer here, so it works really nicely, that does. Now I've got the bike set up one by at the moment, so both the left and right shifters go up and down the rear mech, and same, the internal buttons here go up and down on the rear mech as well. You can set these buttons up to control things like on your Garmin or the head you use, or I don't even know, there's loads of different options how you can set them up basically. Now I'm using a Garmin 1040 solar. You see these little like gaps here, that's basically the solar function. It's got a bit of food in there, so that's like the solar function there. So it charged itself. I've not actually charged it while I've been out here, and I looked at it this morning and it was still on like, I think 88% after like 3 days of riding, and each day 4 or 5 hours. I think that's pretty damn impressive. The light I've got is little exposure one, I don't even know what it's called, little one, little boy. I'm just riding like a front of the rear now most of the time, more as a sort of a self-safety thing, I guess. I just prefer to be seen, and I think how it's sort of integrated into the Cervélo stem mount system is really, really neat as well. So what they've done is they basically produced this little bit that goes into the stem cap, and you can then have a GoPro mount on the bottom, and then this little 3D printed thing is by Eyewear Direct, and it'll allow you just to have a light there. It comes with this little rubber band, and equally you can then just, you know, have the Garmin mount on the top part, so it's really neat. Loads of people always ask, why do I use this? Because they provide it. It's That's basically it, to be honest with you, no other reason. Just say this handlebar and stem are Cervélo's own, so I love the shape of these handlebars. They're like they're flared and they're quite wide, but also the shape of them is they roll slightly back, so they actually are nice to put your hands on. They have designed them so you can clip on TT bars etc on there, and then this bit of duct tape that's here is basically hiding an additional DI2 wire, so I can put DI2 bars on the end of the TT bars like I have the Badlands. So the wheels are from Parcours. These are the outer, which is their gravel rim. They are 36mm deep and they are 33mm wide, so super wide. The internal width is 24mm and they're hookless rim, so they work fantastic for like gravel riding and big fat tyres. Weight wise for the pair it's about 1,500 grams, so yeah, super light. I've been super impressed with them. I've used them for various iterations for quite a long time, the previous ones or these ones. They are obviously a disc brake wheel. I'm running Shimano XTR centre lock rotor front and rear 160. So the tyres on here are the Schwalbe G1 Overland. These are a 700 by 40C tyre. They are sort of designed to be their kind of like everyday use gravel tyre, I think. Schwalbe's range of tyres, especially on the gravel side, is insane. There's just so many offerings of different tyre choices now with Schwalbe and the gravel range, and I've been super impressed with the Overland as a kind of like all-round, all-the-time tyre. It seems to roll really fast still, even though it's a gravel tyre. It's not as fast obviously as the RS or the R, which are their sort of pure out-and-out race tyres, but it does have a thicker sidewall, so it's a bit tougher if you're going on some really burly stuff basically. Crankset, this is a GRX 1x setup at the moment with a 170 crank. I'm using Garmin Rally pedals. I use these pedals for Badlands. I've used them for quite a lot of stuff. Been super impressed. I've not actually changed the batteries yet in them. The Garmin's still saying the battery life's good, so it's great. I'm really impressed with them. They give you loads of metrics and data and information, and they spin quite nicely as well. Little bonus, little fidget spinners. Now the GRX cranks, you can actually use them 1x or 2x, it doesn't really matter. They both set up absolutely fine, so you could run it with a 2x chainring or 1x chainring, whatever you prefer. What I like that Cervélo have done is you can put this little mount on to take the front mech hanger off, and it just looks a bit cleaner and tidier. So at the rear again, as I've already said, the Parcours outer rim, the Schwalbe G1 Overland, same size, 40mm. There's plenty of room still in the frame there. You could probably go a bit bigger, but I don't see the point really. Now the mech I'm using is an XTR Di2 mech. This is like an older generation 11-speed Di2 mech. It works absolutely fine with the GRX shifters, but you can only use this mech in a 1x setup. You can't use it as a 2x setup. Apparently you could fit a 46 tooth cassette, but I've not managed to figure that out. So I've got 42 on the back, 42 on the front, so a 1-to-1 ratio. Had no issues with it. Now you'll see that this is a direct mount hanger. This one comes from a company called Frames and Gear. I just really like direct mount hangers. I think the shifting is so much nicer with them. And this is the clutch for the XTR mech. It's very similar on the Ultegra RX mechs and the GRX mechs. It's basically a clutch you can initiate to turn it on or off, depending on what your use is. But yeah, XTR mech is pretty bomb proof, really solid. I've been super impressed with it, and the reason why I changed it over was basically because I was trying to see if I could fit a bigger cassette. So for Badlands I used the XTR cassette, but I used a wolf tooth goat link as well to drop it down to be able to fit that 50 tooth cassette on that I had, which was just a monster. Rear light, exposure blaze, super long battery life, does really good. I really like exposure lights. They're not cheap, but they last really well and they're pretty bomb proof. And then of course Attacus tool roll. No bike should be complete without one of these. In here I've got like a spare tube, simple sort of toolkit, dyno plug, patches, all that kind of stuff. So this is Cervélo's own seat post. It's nice and simple really. It's normal standard size, does the job. And the saddle is the Stealth off-road saddle. I absolutely love this saddle. I've got it on pretty much everything that I do lots of long bike rides on. You'll hear me rave about it all the time basically. It's quite padded, has this sort of grippy bit on the edge, and the channel is filled in basically to stop you getting mud up your butt. Simple things, right? Now the last thing I'm going to talk about is the frame bag, which is from Tailfin. I'm very lucky to be part of their R&D division, which means I get to test loads of products before they come out. I've worked with Tailfin now for years. I think the first time I started using one of the rear packs was when I rode across Australia. And subsequently they've been sort of growing and expanding the range, producing more and more offerings. And this is the frame bag that's coming out basically. The final production ones won't be white. They've produced white ones basically for R&D members to allow us sort of test the wear and stuff on them, but the ones that are produced will be a grey black colour like the standard Tailfin stuff. But how it mounts is using Tailfin's own straps, which you can see here, and the buckles on them are slightly curved, which I think you can see there, which allows it to sit nicely on the frame, but also means it doesn't contact or rub the frame. Having these kind of straps, because they're rubber, means that they don't do any damage to the frame. And then you've got like this rubber mounty bit here, which means that it just sort of holds it in place. So I've got 3 straps there, 1 there, and it's absolutely solid, not moving at all. Inside here I've just got a pair of long finger gloves, a battery pack, a gilet, a rain cape, and a cap, and a mask. That's it basically. It's just a way of holding extra stuff. Water bottles from Styrkr, big one, small one. Could fit 2 big ones in here if I wanted to, but could be asked, to be honest with you. And then the actual cages are from Attacus. They're like a side load cage. I've used various different side load ones, but I actually think I like these ones the most. The Attacus ones, they work really well. I'm going to be controversial and show you something that not many people will agree with. Pump. I've got a pump on the frame, and then this is a little dyno plug as well. Now, the reason why I've got a pump on the frame is because I hate having a pump in my pocket. And most of the bikes I do like long rides in, I just use the frame pump mount. It's fine, like it's on that side, it's not seen, it doesn't really matter. And then these little dyno plug things are just like a super efficient way to get one of these. This I think is the best thing I've used for repairing a tubeless like puncture. You just stab it in the tyre basically, and having it here means it's just super easy and convenient to get to. And it's quite useful if you're like racing and stuff and you've got to fix it on the side of the road quite quickly. You just mount it there. I'm a big fan of it. One thing I forgot to mention is, so before Badlands I wanted to change the bottom bracket to get something a bit better in, and Seabear kindly sent me this lovely green number, and it's been really good so far. I guess the other thing I haven't explained is why have I taken a gravel bike to go road cycling, and there's a couple of reasons. The fundamental reason for bringing a gravel bike here to Tenerife was it's notoriously windy here, and just having a bit of a thicker, wider tyre with a bit of tread on it, it just slows you down a little bit on the descent, so it takes away a bit, I think it takes away a bit of that sketchiness. Ken and myself, my coach, were talking about it for quite a while, about like what bike to take and whether I should take a road bike or a gravel bike or what, and we both sort of agreed that a gravel bike would be the one because of the fact that it's just a bit slower, you're riding a shallower rim. I don't feel it really affects you anyway on the climbs, to be honest with you, and you know, having the 1-to-1 gear ratio has been perfect. Like, I've not had any issues with it at all. It's got me up everything I've needed to get up. So yeah, that's the main reason really. And also this bike loves being in Spain. God. So that is my Cervélo Aspero 5 setup at the moment. There are other Cervélo Aspero 5s like this one in the same colour, but this one's mine, and we've had many adventures together, and I'm very, very proud of it. Such an annoyingly useful feature. A little bit about today's route. I took a slightly different way up to Villafort. Definitely steeper, definitely a bit tougher, and in about a minute I'm going to turn around and start descending back. Another 35-40k descending, which is pretty perfect. It's been a good day, considering I was feeling a bit tired this morning. Actually, the session I had planned was like 20 minutes, not super hard, like just pushing on the pedals. If I didn't feel good in the first like 20-minute warm-up, I would have canned it, but I felt all right. So yeah, quite glad, quite pleased. Just going to start turning back and descending soon. That is a pro team on a training camp. Always cool when you see things like that.
another ride done. The weather's just started to turn a little bit. It feels like it could rain. But yeah, hopefully you found the bike check useful and interesting. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments and I'll try and answer the best I can. Anyway, see you later. Have a good day.
I'm in a lift, I'm in a lift, I'm in a lift, 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 lift.